What's good, everybody? What's going on, man? It's Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy, and we're back with another episode of Qualified TV. And I say this every single episode. I know I do, but every guest is a special guest to me, and I feel like that's what makes it special. You know what I'm saying? But y'all, this brother to the next of me, to the right of me.
Yeah.
I can't even put it into words, y'all. I don't know. It's just Jeff holds a special place in my heart. That's why I leave it at that. But I will let him fully introduce himself. Let y'all know a little bit about what he does, who he is, and then we're gonna hop right into the interview. So go ahead and tell him who you are, big bro.
Thank you so much. First of all, Steve, you know you got a special place in my heart too, man. Yeah, I just listen. I mean, we'll get into it, but you know, this is a special moment for me too. Just anytime I can sit down with you and rap, it's just always special to me. But anyway, well, more on that in a little bit. My name is Jeff, aka DJ PBNJEFFY, Peanut Butter and Jeffy. You know, originally from Kansas City, Missouri, born and raised, based in St. Louis. I'm an educator, I'm a writer, and I'm a DJ, and just all around creative child, creative being. Just a young man out here trying to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. Dang, yeah, you are really deep into the creative world.
Artist, yeah. Visual artist, digital artist, yeah, all that.
Gotta remember that. Where did the Instagram name come from? Was that something? How long has that been your thing?
Yeah, so randomly, my Instagram name is so random. Well, first of all, Peanut Butter and Jeffy. I love peanut butter. Like, I eat peanut butter, something peanut butter flavored, either a spoonful of peanut butter, like, maybe not every day, but every other day. Like, so I just really love peanut butter. But it was really during the time where before Instagram kind of got popping, and all about like content creation and curation was really when people was uploading food on paper plates. I remember, okay? I remember when Instagram, you was just uploading random ass stuff.
That was a thing.
It was. For some people it still is, but you know, everything's about curating the look. Yeah. But really the name came from me just trying to think of something kind of catchy and cool that I would like. I've went through so many different names on like online. Like I used to be Aquarian Logic, so I'm an Aquarius. So shout out to all my Aquarians out there. You know, people be hating on us on the internet. Don't listen.
I think everybody gets hated on
everybody do, but Aquarians, people be playing us. But I digress. That's not what we're talking about. Peanut Butter and Jeffy just came from literally me just randomly thinking of something. It was a thought that popped into my head. Again, I love peanut butter. I used to eat like PB&J sandwiches all the time. And actually, Jeffy is a nickname, so it's actually a family nickname. So the first part is peanut butter, but Jeffy actually is a family nickname. Like my aunts, my mom calls me Jeffy. Yeah, so I just kind of combined the two, and I just made it a thing.
Yeah, no, it's very catchy. It's one of those Instagram names that like, no, that makes sense. That's a good one. You know, a lot of people try very hard at Instagram names. That seemed like it came natural though.
It did. It literally just like popped into my head. Like it was some random day in undergrad. Like I was just like, Peanut Butter and Jeffy, and there it is. You know.
Yeah. No, I get it. Well, let's start here. Where do you feel like you're looking back? Where would you say the start of your creative journey was? And did you at any point kind of see you having a chance to experience all of your interest in different capacities, or was it just you knew you wanted to create things?
So I love this question because I often, when people ask me like, you know, how did you get into being like a creative? Like, where did it start? I always tell people it started with my mom. Like, my mom, tell people like I get my creative genes from my mom. Like my mom is an artist too. Like she went to school for art. She used to show me her drawings and stuff that she made in high school. Very talented too. Like she can sketch her ass off. Mom, if you listen to this, yes, I know I'll be cussing. But yeah, it really started with my mom. Like my mom, again, I think with being creative herself, she always just encouraged me to just be curious and create and learn. Like, you know, I grew up reading everything. I always say, like, when it comes to like my kind of creative will or the things that I really love to make, writing is my first love. So I was always a kid who enjoyed reading. In school, at home, I always grew up with a bunch of books. And I often wanted to just make stories of my own. So I used to write, short stories, poems. I still do. I went to school and studied fiction writing. But it really started with her. She just always was just so encouraging to me, trying all kind of, just creative things. So if it was writing, if it was painting, drawing, sketching, whatever, she would buy me drawing books, sketchbooks, like from the used bookstores, and I would just get them. I'm really big into comics and anime, so of course the storytelling and the images from that style of art and just storytelling has always been impactful for me, even still today. But if writing is my first love, then music is most definitely maybe a close first, but I don't know, it's hard. Writing and music kind of like are competing for each other, but music is definitely also too kind of like where a lot of my beginnings with being creative start to. I grew up with music in the house. My mom, all my aunts, grew up getting vinyls. I collect now. So I always kind of grew up with music in the house, and I guess I was always just kind of surrounded by creative energy, like from my mom, but also to just being encouraged to explore. I had some good teachers too, like teachers in high school, middle school, like who saw my writing potential and my ability to create and my art potential and things. So I've always kind of been nurtured along the way. As I think about like with my youth, I was never ever discouraged to try any type of like creative pursuit. Like whatever I wanted to try, I could do it.
Okay. Yeah, that I love what your mom said about, or at least I love what you took from your mom in regards to the connection between curiosity and creativity.
Yeah.
Because I think with you saying it, it made me think about the fact that I think whenever you create whatever it is that you create, it's because you're curious about something. Like if you're a chef, you're probably curious about what these things taste like together when you're trying to create, a new dish or a new, whatever the case may be. The same, you just put any artist in their realm, you're curious about if you've seen it before, if these things make sense, if you can do it, so I think curiosity does play a huge role, and I think that they're part of human nature is creativity, but you speaking about your environment and what you're surrounded by, I think if you aren't surrounded by creative, not genes per se, but if you aren't allowed to kind of have that exposure to be curious about things, I think that's how creativity can be dimmed from the jump. And if it doesn't get a chance to really blossom, it's either really delayed or it never happens at all for some people, and that's unfortunate because I feel like everybody should have something that they're creative about. And I guess you could say that some people do, and some people just take that a completely different path than others. But I think that all that also ties in with passion as well. So that's really interesting. But I think that's just extremely important, and I think that's probably something that a lot of people who consider themselves creatives now in some way, form or fashion have in common. But you talked about not the struggle, but how closely the fight is between writing and music for you. What are the feelings that you would say you get from both? Like if you were trying to answer that question, how do you feel about them, and would those feelings play any role, and what would that role be in which one kind of, I don't want to say means more to you, but maybe your top choice, if you will.
It's difficult. I think whenever I'm creating, whether I'm writing, I'm playing music, mixing music for folks, creating playlists. I also forgot to say, I also grew up playing instruments too. So I played alto sax in high school. I played the violin in elementary school. I did play the violin. I sure did.
That's cool.
Come on. So strings and woodwind. So and I share that again, just like with backstory, but to kind of answer your question, like how I feel and I feel like whenever I have created something or am doing something creative, I feel powerful. Like, I feel like I'm tapping into the true superpower that a lot of the things I love, like I said, like comics and even artists and musicians and things, like you are literally creating like stories or telling a story of something personal that happened to you or people whatever, through song, through art, through a book, through writing, whatever it is, but you feel powerful. I feel powerful, right? Because it's like I'm getting to either shape a narrative and tell a story of something that is personal for me, or it's something I'm creating out of my mind, right?
Yeah.
It's a powerful feeling for me being creative. Like I often refer to creativity as a superpower that we all have, right? So we dream about in these comics and these shows and superpowers and all that. Like that comes from a place that all humans share, and that's creativity. So that's a superpower. Now I ain't gonna say human beings have never abused creativity, because there's some really diabolical, there's some dark shit out here.
There really
is. That humans have created, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when creativity is nurtured, I think in a healthy way, it has, and I think about my own experiences with just like being creative, it does feel powerful for me. So I can't really pick between writing and music. I mean, I love them both so much. I feel powerful in different ways, I think, with writing and music. I think with writing, especially because I love fiction writing, I'm also a poet, so like it is the power to be able to shape narratives and be able to have the ability to be able to tell new narratives and new stories that have lived in my head and my thoughts. But with music, I get to tell stories in a different way. If I'm DJing, like I love R&B, listen, I'm an R&B king in my core. And I think about just like how music can be the language of love and, the power that music has to connect people to. So I get to tell a story with the songs I'm playing, but I also get to connect with other people, and that's a really powerful feeling.
Yeah, do you, as far as in the DJing aspect, and I think that I love talking to DJs because DJing has just never been something that I've been curious enough to want to go out and try.
Yeah.
But I've always respected the art of knowing songs that flow and essentially being able to curate and sustain a vibe for a long period of time when a lot of people are very picky about what they like to listen to.
Yeah, they are.
Especially like when they're out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the power that comes from doing that, speak more to not where it comes from, but speak more to what is your goal, like what you want to do with that power. Like you acknowledge that power exists when you're doing it, but what kind of goes into, I guess, the responsibility of it, and you can take that to whatever layer you want to, but knowing that you have that power and it's not something that everybody possesses, where do you kind of find pride in having that, and what is your goal when you're DJing or when you're trying to keep folks like dancing and happy? Like what's the thought process with that?
Yeah, kind of like what you just said, keep folks dancing and happy. But for real, like I think the goal for me is to help people create special moments for themselves, with their loved ones, with their homies, their partners, whatever, right? Like, the thing about music is, especially, I guess, being on my DJ journey, things that I'm learning is that, like, DJs have a huge responsibility for not just, like, curating the vibe, but helping people create moments. Like,
yes.
Like, can you think of a time where you were out, and it might just be a casual night out with your homies, it might be like a date night or whatever, it may be, like, someone's wedding that like, or whatever. DJs have a huge responsibility around, like, helping people shape huge moments of their lives.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, graduation party or whatever, like it's not just, and this is what I see online too, where people tell me like, DJing it don't seem like that hard of a job. I mean, you just get up there, you pressing buttons or whatever, and it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
Right. But because you are helping people celebrate, special moments in their lives, whether you were hired to do a private event or, I mean, you are spending it at a club or a bar or something like that, you don't ever know, like, what someone being in a space where you are up there playing music, you don't never know, like, what they could be going through, or, maybe they just needed a night where they just wanted to come and hear some good music because they've been stressed about stuff. You never know. And good music, hearing good music and hearing from good DJs can really change your life. It can make or break your moments in a lot of ways. I'm learning on my journey. But so the goal for me is really to help people, continue to help, like, shape special moments in their lives, like, no matter how big or small, like, that's really the goal, and it's to help people feel connected, right?
Yeah.
And for me, when I see, people out dancing, when I'm spinning or whatever, like, I see people out dancing, they're enjoying the music, they're enjoying it as the songs flow into the next. For me, that's a special moment because I'm like, okay, y'all really messing with the kid, you know what I'm saying? But y'all having a good time, and that's really the goal of music is to make you feel good and have a good time. Like, I don't know where I would be in my life if I didn't have music. Like, I don't know, and I don't exaggerate when I say that. Like, it is so special and so important to all of us. So, being able to help people feel that's the goal.
Yeah. I mean, the moment, until you said it, I don't think I had necessarily realized how big that moment aspect of it is, because, there are so many moments that defined is a strong word. Yeah. But I guess it still fits, because if a memory or a moment is something that you think back to time to time, whatever song or all the things, like, if it's a moment that's really that powerful, you're gonna remember everything about it, and a lot of times the music is a part of it, and that's a big deal. I think that just speaks to everything you said about the power of music as well. You mentioned something a little bit earlier about like comfortability and creativity, and I think that, do you feel like there are people that are scared, not so much by the idea of creativity, but almost scared by what you think about doing when you're really in a creative space? Because as I'm sure you understand on multiple levels, there are so many people that have crazy ideas until it's not a crazy idea because somebody actually did it. But when you first think about, like, man, it would be crazy if this happened, and then you start realizing, like, oh, well, for this to happen, A, B, and C has to happen. I guess A isn't, doesn't take too long to get done, and then you start to actually build an idea. Do you think that scares people to a degree, or do you feel like you've seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it, I've observed it, and I've experienced it. I think when you decide, and I think about that question in a way of, like, when you start to share, things that you are creatively interested in, or things that you make, right? So, that first painting, that first song you made, that first mix you made, whatever it is. I think for a lot of creative folks, and I mean, I'll say this for myself, is that I think that we can see, or we envision so much of what the end goal is. It's like, oh, I want to be this type of DJ, oh, I want to be this type of writer, oh, I want to be this type of creator, or whatever it is. We can see the end goal, and the end goal is like, if I just get here, I got it, right? Or whatever. But it's the process in between what we envision or what we hope for that is the scary part. Shout out to Queen Mother Beyonce from Homecoming. When she's rehearsing, and she says, like, that's why people don't like to rehearse. You got to be a student. You got to be humble. You got to be willing to look stupid. And sometimes when you start sharing pieces of your creative life, or things that you are interested in, it can feel scary, because it does feel like sometimes you are to kind of, I guess in layman's terms, like you feel like you're naked on a stage because like, oh shit, like everybody's looking at me, or I'm about to do this thing, or I have this crazy idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna resonate or hit with everybody, or maybe, you know, for me, I know I have struggled so much in my creative journey with a lot of self-doubt, like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, like I don't know if I'm at that level yet or whichever. And one thing I'm continuously learning from being a creative is that either you're going to do it and do it scared, or people are going to continue to benefit from your doubt. Like, they're going to continue to benefit from your doubt, and somebody wants to make the thing that you want happen, right? So either you are going to take a leap and say, oh, you know, I'm just trying to make it happen. Like, and again, having that end goal in mind, or having that kind of like complete, like, oh, from once here, I'll be complete. Like, once I've reached this level, I know that I've made it, or got it, or whatever. But you really have to learn how to lean into the journey of being like a creative, and like, it may, you know, all the ideas may not hit, right? You know, the 2 songs I wanted to mix together didn't hit. They didn't ring off in a club like that, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you should stop, or doesn't mean that you should kind of let those moments determine how you should approach it, right? Like, sometimes you really just got to do it. Like, you can't just dip a toe in. Like, listen, sometimes I'm a toe dipper still. I'm like, nah, well, like, no, just try it, right? You never know. Like, I would have never thought that I could even be where I am today, because I just felt like I just can't figure it out. Like, I just don't know what it is. Yeah. But it was me also to being in my own way and letting other people benefit from my doubt, that I think was like really stopping me from just beginning, you know? So yeah, it does scare people. Short answer is like, it scares people. People are just scared to begin.
Yeah. First off, I have to acknowledge bars when bars are dropped, and that is a bar. Because I think we hear so many different variations of whatever you're doing, you're going to have to do it scared at, in some capacity. The second part though, I think we can all get so focused on the reasons we can't or don't want to do it, that we're not even realizing that there are people benefiting from that. Mm-hmm. And I guess it, in a way, it just shows you how layered a lot of things in life naturally are. Yeah. But if there was no motivator before, I think people benefiting off of you, and not only you in a general sense, but like you said, like your doubt. Mm-hmm. When I put that into perspective, like that, if nothing else motivates me, that has to. Because if the only thing separating us is doubt, like that's it. Like, I didn't believe and you did. That's the only separation. Yeah. That's not acceptable. Yeah. You know, and not even from a selfish or jealous perspective, but selfish maybe in context of, myself, but if that's it, I'll take my chances. And then when you put into perspective that it's all about taking a chance, and that everything that you do is taking a chance, because there's almost 100% chance that not everybody is gonna like it, agree with it, support it. Yeah. And I think being okay with it is what a lot of people struggle with. And my next question was going to be, how do you spoke about being vulnerable just as a creative in general, and how that feels, and really the courage it takes. How do you still protect your art within being vulnerable? Because it's one thing to put things out there for people to criticize anyway. Yeah. But when you're really putting personal things in there that what you're sharing may be relatable to a small percentage, or be understood by a small percentage, how do you kind of protect the ability to do that when it may not be appreciated 100%?
Yeah. I think, I do think it's a very human thing to want to feel appreciated and valued, especially when you are sharing things. Especially, things as personal as like anything that you create, or, it's something natural to say, like, if I share this, I want to feel like people appreciate it. I want to feel valued in doing this, because especially if you feel like you're doing such a big thing and a big scary thing, you know that it's taking a lot for you to do this thing, right? So you want people to appreciate it, and that's natural. That is normal. I think about it in a couple of different ways. Is that like how you kind of protect your art or protect your creativity is by one, I think getting feedback is always helpful. I don't think that you could, because I think once you also to learn how to take constructive feedback, or like you were talking about, like a small percentage of folks who care. Okay, well, if it's 3 people that care, okay, well, I'm gonna ask those 3 people, oh, well, what'd you think? Like, did y'all enjoy that? I also think that it's important to listen to folks in the same creative areas or fields that you're interested in too. Now, not everybody, right? Because people are still gonna be people, regardless of what they do, who they are, or whatever. But I'll speak for myself. Like, in my experience, having folks who are also too invested in writing, music, DJing, art, and really they're just my community, right? My friends who are also too creative. Because I think that's a really important thing too. Like protecting your art, you gotta have like a creative community around you too.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta have people who also want to not just see you protect your art, but also too they want you to share your art. They want to encourage you. Yeah, we need you to share this. And it's funny. I would say a story like the first time I did like my first DJ set in a club. It was an open deck night here in St. Louis, and there was a bunch of other DJs that are there. Like I'm talking about folks who've been spinning for since I was like in the single digits, and I'm just like, man, I'm not like them. Like I've been spinning for like 10 plus years or whatever else like that. But I did my set, and one of the guys, and I mean I consider him to be of a mentor kind of figure for me. He's been spinning forever, like 15 plus years or something like that. He came up to me. He found me. He came up to me. He's like, man, that was fire. Like he was like, that was so good. And also too, I think with protecting your art, I know sometimes I go a little bit everywhere. Sorry, bear with me. But with protecting your art, don't minimize your art either. I think that's really important. That's something I'm trying to learn. Because sometimes we think that we're protecting our art by minimizing what we're doing. Yeah. So like the moment I was about to, I'm talking about is like after one of my, DJ homies came up, he's a veteran, like he's been spinning forever, and I hate to use that word veteran, it sounds so weird, but he an OG or whatever in the game, but he was like, no man, that was fire. Like he said that song selection was amazing, and I immediately kind of was like, oh, thank you, I'm just really getting out here and all this, kind of explaining, and he was just like, okay, that's great that you're still learning, that was still fire, and also too, all that other stuff, like the technical stuff, it'll come. Like he said, but that was amazing. If that was your first time doing it, like that was really good. And I didn't need to justify why I was doing what I was doing and where I was at in my skills and things like that. He's like, look, that was fire. Like what? Just take it. And also too, don't minimize it. Right? Yeah. Don't minimize what you're doing. Like it's okay if your first painting is not a Picasso. Maybe Picasso's not your standard, right? Yeah. That's okay. It's okay if that first song is not Drunk in Love. It's all right. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so I think that it's really important, while we're not minimizing our work, and while it is important to want to feel like people appreciate what you do, you have to believe in your work. You have to believe in it. Kind of I don't know if you want to call it being delusional or what, but you really do have to deeply believe in your work. And I think that just helps you continue to build your confidence. And as your confidence builds, I think that's also to a way that you learn how to protect your creativity, your art, because when you have a greater sense of yourself, and also to when you know why you're doing what you're doing, nobody can really deter you from that. Like, okay, if people don't really mess with it, that's fine. I know why I'm doing this. I know why I'm creating. and reminding yourself of that, like letting that be like your, I don't know if you want to call it your true north or your guiding star or whatever it is. I think that's like the best way to also learn how to protect your art and protect your creativity. It's just to remind yourself of why you're doing it. Because I think that can get lost sometimes, especially as you know you grow, and you know if your goal is to get more exposure or become a bigger and better creative and artist and things like that. Like some of the original reasons of why, or the reason why you're even doing what you're doing, can get lost.
Yeah.
In that, and I feel like protecting your art is always going back to that place of like, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of what you said, like, I feel like I definitely relate to when it comes to content creation. Because even the self-doubt, it's funny. I want to say within the last, like, maybe month, let's just say month, on 2 separate occasions, I've had people, like, randomly to a degree, like, we might have been just checking in or whatever the case may be, but they'll hit me with so yeah, where the videos at, bro? Like, where the motivational videos at, man? And then one of my other homie, he's somebody who I've known since like 5th or 6th grade, probably early, like 3rd or 4th for real. But he was just like, hey man, I don't know what you got going on, but I ain't got my y'all be easy message this week. That's a problem. All right, stop. He's like, stop messing around, bro. Yeah. And it was just it does make me feel good, but it's really more so a thing of, I don't necessarily know why, but I love doing the videos, and I know that there are people that like them, but I never thought of it as something that people might miss. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And when you talk about that self-doubt and how powerful it can be, it's one of those things where we've gotten to a point where, even in trying to be vulnerable or trying to be genuine, whatever the case may be, when things aren't being received, not so much in a way that you think, just in a way that you feel like actually shows people kind of value what it is that you're sharing or that you're doing, it can be discouraging. It can feel pointless. But I mean, like you were just saying, you just gotta have the mentality of, like, one, who you doing it for and why you're doing it for, and just like understanding the process. Like, it's numbers and whatever else you may be using as some type of scale is just, I won't call it superficial, because it's a reality, but it doesn't determine or dictate, like, your absolute value or worth. But also the minimizing piece too, because that's been another part of it. I feel like a lot of times, people kind of like ask what I do, and I won't get stumped by the question, but I always feel weird explaining it, because I feel like I'm explaining something that people, I won't say they don't get, but almost like it's not impressive, because in my mind it's not the end goal thing that I'm explaining. Yeah. Like, if I explain the end goal, it's like, oh, that sounds fire, that'd be cool to see. But when I'm explaining where it's at now, it feels like just a project, and not a project that people necessarily believe in or support. But it's not minimizing it, I think, is key. That's probably the second or third bar you dropped today. But but no, I mean, it's huge, and I think that's probably all the people that we see accomplishing these big things. I mean, I feel like we talked about this earlier too. Like, everybody has their moment. Everybody has their things that they're dealing with, working through, navigating, etc. So it just puts a lot into perspective. I want to touch back on writing for a little bit. What would you say writing like allows for you to do, and which type of writing, if there's a specific one, like really brings that, whatever the answer is, to life for you?
Yeah. So I know I mentioned that I feel powerful when I'm creating, and writing is no different. I think, and maybe I answered this a little bit earlier, but I think about writing in terms of, like, I really love fiction. I grew up reading all the fantasy sci-fi novels, so I really love dystopians. Dystopians are my favorite genre of literature. I just think it's really interesting that humans are able to envision a future, or futures that, like, I always think, I don't know, I go back to high school when we learned about the difference between dystopians and utopias. Like, dystopians are worlds that could exist and should not. I don't know if any Matrix fans out there. And utopias are worlds that should exist but cannot, right? So like I really love dystopians because humans and writers and creators have just thought of these ways that like we could be living under a machine regime of like there could be some kind of crazy ass spore, I mean The Last of Us, right? Like that could turn everybody into zombies and like you're like, oh, okay, that's a work of fiction, but like we know that this stuff exists in real life. I know this is not what you asked me, but I'm just saying. I'm talking more so around kind of like my process and like how I understand writing and why it's so important to me in my life. It is because with fiction, you are getting to not only just create worlds and characters and storylines that are birthed from your mind, but even the things that are birthed from your mind come from a place. So characters, are written because writers know somebody in real life who's like that person, or characters can be a combination of folks and experiences that a writer might know. And to think that we're able to kind of shape these people who have lives and things. And writers are so important, right? Like your favorite film, your favorite TV show, your favorite documentary, even if it's a work of nonfiction, real life. Somebody had to think of a way to creatively tell a story about somebody or something that really happened in the world. But fiction allows you to create a story of something that's not really real, but this is a story, right? Yeah. And I mean, we all again have a favorite film, favorite TV show, or whatever. But I really also love poetry too, and for me, poetry is a little bit more personal. Not even a little bit, it's a lot more personal. Because my poetry is often written from like personal experiences, right? Like trying to make sense of my life, trying to make sense of things that have happened to me in my life, memories that I have from childhood. I have a favorite poem I've written called "Playing in the Backyard." I'm an only child. So like I had to learn how to be my own best friend for a good majority of my life. I had friends and I had cousins that were like really close, to me, but I spent a majority of my time really just hanging out with me as a kid. And I wrote that poem about how I used to just feel so carefree, playing with my little toy sword, or I would get a stick from the yard and I would be a superhero playing in my backyard. And I don't know, that poem just came to me one day. It's just random because I was just thinking about when's the last time I just felt like carefree, like I'm not thinking about anything else. And I was like, when I was a kid, I used to just play in the backyard all the time. And that's where the title of the poem came from. So that's, that it's able to, poetry is able to help me reminisce about days where I did feel carefree when I was just younger. But they also help me, process things going on in my life, right? Like my own mental health struggles, challenges with family, friends, relationships, with self. It's really a personal power for me, poetry, because they're glimpses of moments or feelings or memories that I'm able to put on a page. And I don't know, if folks love poetry, like we all have our favorite poems too. Like I think about poems that still sit with me today. Like, that's just left an impact. So that's what I think about, like with writing. Just again, the personal power, but also too that deeper kind of creative power. It's like, hey, I'm telling my own story. I think writing is really good, and I'll end my little rant here. I think writing is really good because it also helps us learn how to own our own narratives, own your story, and own power in your story too. Like how you were just saying, like even when you explain to people like what you do, we're kind of going back to the minimizing. Writing helps you also to cultivate a confidence in yourself to know that your story is important, like, and you do have something to say. My ideas and my thoughts and my dreams, they are important. They do matter. And that is powerful. Knowing how to own your own narrative, shape your own narrative, and tell your story in your own way is very powerful.
Yeah. Man, you preaching, bro. I'm not gonna hold you. But no, that I haven't written in a while. I haven't written poetry in a while. I haven't just written creatively or really in any capacity in a while. But it was that type of release for me in high school, and something that I find myself gradually, back to and around in some ways. And it feels like one of my creative outlets that I haven't, catered to in a very long time. But yeah, a lot of those same feelings are there for me. You spoke about, your favorite poem. I don't know if it's my favorite poem, but I know that it's my most memorable one, and probably my most personal one. But it's one I wrote about the relationship with my dad, and I'm proud of myself for the title, just because looking back on it, like, I don't know how I came up with it. It was cold, but the title of the poem was Mirror Image, and it's basically this entire poem about all the things that I don't like or that I struggle with in regards to my relationship with my dad growing up, but how a lot of those things, like, I see or I acknowledge. Like, honestly, like, if I wrote a part 2, like, it'd actually be crazy. But it's just that whole thinking about when I wrote it, and then thinking about like that relationship and just life, how life has progressed now. It's like, but that release at that time was so vital and important because there was really nobody else that I was explaining those feelings to, especially because it wasn't like I was, speaking with him about it. So writing does have that power. I do quickly want to get in though. The only thing we haven't touched on that you mentioned earlier is the educator aspect. Of course, and I know you are, in the higher ed space. But what does being an educator, like, how is that a part of your being, your personality, who you are? How's that a part of your passion, the impact you want to leave on the world, like, all that good stuff? What's it mean to you being an educator?
So I think about who I am at my core, and who I am at my core is a learner or a student, however you want to phrase it. But I'm a learner at my core. I think I touched on that. Being raised by a mom who always encouraged me to be curious and ask questions. I think that is the role of myself being an educator, but also to just valuing education itself. And not just education in the traditional sense, like, schools, like, I forgot who, I think it was W.B. Du Bois, who said, education must not just teach work, it must teach life. And forgive me if I butcher that quote, but I believe W.B. Du Bois said that, like, education also too has to teach life. And I think that when you see the incredible opportunities as an educator to help, support young people on their paths, but also to see them grow and be shaped as young adults and young humans in the world and society, it's special. But I also think about the real challenges and the barriers that exist for a lot of people, particularly folks that come from our communities, that we have, that when it comes to education, right? I talked about growing up having books in my home, and it wasn't until I went to graduate school that one of my professors at the time, she talked about how having books in your home is a privilege. Having access to knowledge is a privilege. And I never thought about it. It was just something I grew up in. And for me, of course, when I was younger, privilege just meant having money. I was like, well, I didn't grow up with money, but having resources like books, having an encyclopedia or a dictionary in your house is a resource and a privilege. Like, you have access to knowledge, and I didn't think about it at the time, but it really is important, right, for me as an educator to be able to help young folks and help everyone, but particularly like youth and young folks, like get access to the things that they need. So they can be those great creators, so they can go forth and prosper and do all the great things. And I know that I would not be where I am today if I didn't have people in the education space, being champions for me. Not just wanting to see me be a good student or a good scholar, but people, again, who were encouraging me to be curious and ask questions. Teachers who encouraged me to learn in my own way. Like, you don't have to learn this way. Learn the way that's going to work for you. And I think that's important too, right?
Yeah.
As an educator, is to help folks like be able to understand, like, you learn the way that you need to learn. So much of education, the way that we kind of utilize education in the United States is in a way where, folks are expected to learn these particular ways, hit these particular competencies, and there's so much stuff in between that we can learn and ways that we need to learn that we still need to discover. So I really have tried to do that in my career as an educator. And education is a creative field too. You gotta be creative.
It very much is, yeah.
Yeah, you got to be creative. So, I think education is really important, and I'm always gonna be an educator and a learner at my core.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think all educators have to be learners. It's just that you have to, because it's a consistent evolution of understanding, because you're dealing, especially as you spend more time being an educator, because now you're educating and learning across generations, and it's just like
stuff changes.
It's something you have to be very open to. But I agree, like education just in general, being educated on what things mean, where things come from, why things are the way they are, how things have come to be a certain way. Is there hope for, or how can something be changed? Those are just like, that type of knowledge is education. It's not just books, but even to that point about books, it really is, because when you think about it, I was fortunate to have books in my house, or to have access to books, and I just think about people who like wanted to read a book so bad but couldn't get their hands on the book they wanted to, and you don't think about it. You make the assumption that everybody's granted the same opportunities, like especially when you're younger, and it's just not the case. So but I love all those things about I won't say being an educator per se, but being in the education space, being able to, whether you consider it mentor, guide, whatever the case may be, those also in the educating space, or those who want to go on and be educators. So that's a really big deal. Well, we've gotten to this point, bro. We've gotten to the point where you got to answer the end all be all question.
Okay.
We talked about you as a creative, everything that comes with that, writing, poetry, as a DJ, a visual artist, all of those things. In being a creative, what makes you DJ PBNJEFFY?
What makes me qualified? What makes me qualified is everything I do, everything I create, everything I make is with the goal and intention of being authentically me in all ways, to encourage people to do the same for themselves. One thing I've learned with being a creative, creativity is often, whatever creative pursuit or journey you're on, is often a reflection of a life. And if anything, being creative has taught me, and this is why I do it, is that there's no greater gift or prize than you in this life. There's nothing more important than cultivating your gifts. If you have a creative inclination for anything at all, I do believe like you have a responsibility or a destiny to follow it, to just see what it does, right? See what happens, see what it does for you, right? To see what happens. So the goal for me is always to be able to learn more about myself and be able to share my authenticity with others, so others can also feel encouraged to do the same. You know, I said it earlier, sometimes we just have to simply begin. And sometimes when you begin, that begins the journey of getting to know yourself and getting to know who you are in an authentic way. So you can share that with other people, right? We all need more space to feel authentic in what we do. And what makes me qualified is that I believe in giving yourself permission first. And when we give ourselves permission to be ourselves, we show other people that they can give themselves permission to do it too. So that's me. That's what makes me qualified. You know, I'm just me, and I'm gonna do me, and I'm gonna encourage you to do you too. Just stay out of my way. That's it. I mean, you know, I'm kidding, but for real, do you? I'm gonna do me, and it's enough room for all of us, for real. Like, it really is. Like, but that's it.
Man, I don't know how many bars you dropped, but you got it. You did it. But man, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your Saturday to allow me to interview you. I appreciate it. As I complimented before, this is an amazing room and setup. So it's just even cool that we got to do it like with this aesthetic and you know, really make it cool. But anything you want to leave the people with, pages they need to follow, ways they can stay connected to you and know about what you're doing?
Yes, sir. Well, first I want to say thank you, Brother Steve, for having me. You know, from creative to creative, I respect everything that you do. I see how hard you work, and it's definitely not in vain. And what was told to me and what I'll share with you is, like, you know, you out here doing stuff that people wish that they could be doing. So you keep going, I'm gonna keep going, and we're on this journey together. I really hope that you know that from me, and I mean that genuinely. So I appreciate you for having me. But yeah, for folks watching at home, you can keep in touch with your boy. You can follow me on Instagram at PeanutButterandJeffy. Please spell it all out. So even the and, Peanut Butter and Jeffy. That's Jeffy with 2 F's and a Y. Yeah, I got SoundCloud. You can follow my SoundCloud also too, Peanut Butter and Jeffy. But IG is the best way to get a hold of me and keep up with me. Also too, you know, come and see me spin if you're in the St. Louis area. We'll be spinning in other areas and cities soon come, so just be on the lookout for that. But yeah, stay in touch with me, keep in touch with me. And also too, again, like I said, if you are somebody who has any type of like creative inclination for anything, if you just want to try it out, just go for it. You know, like this is your sign. This is the message that you've been waiting for, to just fucking go for it. Like, okay, just go for it, and stop letting people benefit from your doubt, because all it does is give people all the benefits, and you're left with nothing. So just go for it. You know, yeah, and have fun. It's fun. Have fun.
And with that sermon, we'll catch y'all next Sunday.
Yes. Peace.
Until next episode. Peace.